we on?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I forgot the logo again. Oh no.
That's okay.
There we are.
Okay.
It's the Jimmy Doane Show, everybody. It's what happens with live television, we're going to call this.
Okay.
That's what we're going to call it.
Well, I meant to tell people why we're a little late today.
Okay.
Well, because our clock, the sun is not shining, and so the sundial was a little off.
Right. Oh,
That's how we keep our time here.
In Florida, yeah, that's how everybody keeps time in Florida.
Right.
So anyway, it's 4 o'clock. That means we are live, or very close to it, and we do this twice a week, Sundays and Wednesdays. Today is the 7th of August, 2019. I'll post a copy of this up on YouTube later with all the subjects timestamped for your viewing pleasure. And you can find us on audio format, Luminary and Libsyn and Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. So, what is happening today?
What is happening today? God Almighty. Well, what do you think is happening? I mean, I know I'm not sure I want to get it. It is not first on my list, okay? But the candidates, of course, have come out, and as you well know, have they're how can I as Pat Buchanan said, they looked at the massacres as a loose football on the field.
That's a good way to put
I
it.
thought it was great. That's Pat Buchanan and not Tyler Durden, but who else is it? Paul Craig Roberts. Mm-hmm. One of the places that I go to is the Lou Rockwell, our LRC, the LRC blog, and he has a bunch of every day. He has a bunch of essays by different, maybe a dozen people or so, and two of them were Paul Craig Roberts and Pat Buchanan, who talked about. If you want to see what the deal was on the manifesto especially, but on the other stuff, well, one of the things that's kind of interesting was the manifesto didn't say anything like what their people are accusing people of. That is to say, it was fairly extensive, and it had a lot of other things to say.
You're talking about the 4-page manifesto.
I guess that what it was.
Yeah, 4
okay.
pages. This is not like the 61-page.
No. But the point was, it railed against everything. And
I read it. I mean, for the two things about it. Number one, when somebody's so maniacal that they're going to do something like that, the entire manifesto could be a ruse. That could be part of his plan. Like, hey, I'll write this manifesto. Ha 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 ha. I'll be laughing at them reading the manifesto about. I mean, so there's no way you can infer anything out of the manifesto. But if you did, you can get both things. He expressly excused Trump.
Right.
He said that his views were formed before Trump. And then he also said that he basically was doing it because of the Mexican invasion. And now his thought, interestingly, focused on economics.
Right.
But there was one thing that he said in the manifesto which threw me off, which made me think that it was fake or something was weird about it.
Okay.
And that is, he said, my dream job will likely be automated in the future.
Okay. Well, he also said he could. Isn't he the one that said he couldn't wait for the socialists to be here? Couldn't wait. Well, whatever. Maybe that was the other guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the other guy's a total lefty.
Right.
The other guy was a total socialist. He's got his pronouns on Twitter. He's got everything.
Okay.
He supports Elizabeth Warren.
Right. Wasn't too much about that in the news, was there?
No. Well, of course. Look, to me, that was the story of the news this week. Was another nail in the coffin of the mainstream media, when, of course, the New York Times came out with a positive headline about President Trump. You saw this, right?
I heard they had to withdraw it or something.
Well, I mean, when you say
rewrite
had to, they did change it.
Right.
But the question you have to ask yourself is, under pressure from whom? And of course, the answer is the Democrats.
Yeah.
If this doesn't clearly indicate to you two things. Number one, the New York Times obviously publishes fake news if so many people are going to object to it on both sides of the aisle now.
Right.
And then second, it's certainly not journalism anymore if somebody can call up and get the headline changed.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. That is kind of interesting. I'm standing firm on this until, well, no, I'm not either.
Dude, I mean, they folded like Superman on laundry day. I mean, it was quick and done, and I just think that, now I say that, the New York Times' stock is, from, like, if you'd bought it like last year, it's up 100%.
Really?
Yeah, somehow, yeah, I don't know why.
Well,
They made some good deals online or something. But from my perspective, every time I see a story, if it says New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS, WAPO, even Wall Street Journal these days,
yeah,
my immediate thought is this is an opinion piece.
Right.
And it's going to be fraught with verbs that don't fit just action. Like, for example, they could say, Trump said blah, 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 but they never say that. They say, Trump attacked so-and-so, slammed so-and-so. It's just everything is colored already, right, when you get it. So,
well, one of the things that they did find out was, of course, they immediately, with continuing on the loose football thing, the top, well, not only the top rung candidates, most all of them came out and really went to town on Trump. Said, that he was the cause of the El Paso,
yeah,
100%. I mean, and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie and all these other people were saying, well, this, if it wasn't for his, absolutely. I mean, he's a xenophobe and whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And if he keeps, obviously, this kind of rhetoric that he uses is the reason that people do this sort of thing. And he and somebody else, one of my friends actually said, if you support Trump, you have blood on your hands. Not
well,
really. I was personally not there.
Yeah, well, people are trying to paint that picture now. There's a bunch of people out there who are trying to gaslight everybody. I've seen the tweets recently that start off with things like "all you white people."
Right.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna go there?
Well,
like all.
When you were saying
200 million people from 47 different countries.
Yeah, all you, right. Well, it's not only that. The thing that is so interesting about this is that when you realize that any person running for president or is president has views on 100 different things, and you may agree with that person on 2 or 3 or 9 of them. And actually, as far as you're concerned, that's the reason you're going to vote for this person.
Right.
But the other stuff, you're thinking, what the hell's that guy doing or that girl doing or whatever.
Right. And people are coming out, they're pointing that out, obviously. It's just interesting that the mainstream, the former media, whatever you want to call them, is pushing so hard that narrative. What's that?
The media are pushing.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, I'm a grammar Nazi. I'm sorry.
That's Latin. Okay, that language is dead.
Dead.
So they're pushing it. It's pushing it, and so it's really like almost like a gaslighting campaign. And then it brings to mind that. Former clip you used to see of all the different news anchors saying exactly the same thing over and over.
Right.
It's like, really? You guys are going with, this is all Trump's fault, and there's the singular cause. It's white supremacy,
Well, it is
all you white people.
When they have those montages, I remember years ago, it was gravitas was the word, and everybody.
Right. Oh yeah.
It was the gravitas. I mean, thinking, where did you get this? I mean, this was all all the top talking heads. They in their news things, they all had gravitas.
Everybody got the facts.
Oh my gosh! Right. The word today is gravitas.
That's it.
Okay.
So
say the magic word and you win $100.
It's remarkable how far we've come. But the good news is that it's all been replaced by these new citizen journalists. They're all over the place, and they're like the old days. It's on the ground reporting. It's here I am in the neighborhood. They're saying whatever it is going on, and I'm showing you my phone. This is my phone picture. You can see it's like the old days of action news reporter.
Yeah, right.
On the ground.
On the ground, yeah. Well, at any rate, it'll be. We'll keep up with this obviously, and to see how long this story will last, because
the guns will?
Yeah. The guns thing. I mean, it does not appear, when you think about it, as anybody will tell you, no amount of gun control, whatever it is, would have prevented this stuff. It doesn't prevent this kind of stuff. What you have on the books now, they get around it any way you want. What's the next law to restrict the Second Amendment, and there are people calling for the repeal of it, of course.
Right.
Repeal of the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
And
Well, sure.
And so, but they said that if you short of that, what are you going to do?
Well, even if you try to do that, I mean, even if you instituted a law that said it's a felony to own a gun, it's an absolute, 3 years imprisonment to own any piece of a gun, which that's the law in a lot of states. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. If you have just a piece of a gun, that's considered a gun, like the clip itself, or the trigger, or a spring
Bullets.
out of it. Seriously, a bullet.
Yeah.
Each individual bullet is considered a weapon. And so even a cartridge, it's amazing. It's like, so they could do that, and we could say, and turn in your guns, and you've got this amount of time, and then that's it. And so still, even if 99.9% of everybody turned in their guns, that's still millions of guns out there.
Right.
And of course, who are the people who are not turning in their guns? It's the people who are thinking of using them.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do? You're going to go collect the guns from 3 million people? No, you're not. No, not happening, because those are the ones who would fight back, and they would consider it a constitutional right straight out of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and everything. So they would fight to the death. So you'd have to kill millions of people just in order to enforce that rule. Meanwhile, you're disarming all the normal people. That's what the problem with gun control and all these reasonable restrictions is that they target the wrong people. We talked about this last time. They make a distinction between normal people and cops for some reason. A normal person, your average person, is a help with a gun. They help the situation, and they promote this narrative like, and I saw it just yesterday. If you're a normal person with the gun in the situation, you're just going to cause more casualties than no, you're not. Like, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. Either you're probably not going to engage. Like, nobody in that Walmart went to the sporting goods section and busted out a gun and went in there. But there was apparently a military guy in the Walmart with his gun.
Oh, yeah.
And he took up a position. But then he decided to protect some kids, to gather some kids around him instead of go out to where whatever was happening. So you want those good guys with the guns out there. They're a deterrent, the same way that the criminals know that you can't go just rob people willy-nilly because the cops have guns. They also know that people have guns. And if you snapped your fingers and took all those guns out of society, there would be a huge crime wave. And there's 100 times more violent crimes than there are murders with guns. And so if that number doubles, you're talking about a complete degradation of society, really.
Well, looks like, with all due respect, looks like we're kind of heading that way anyway.
I don't see it. You know what? I'll tell you what, people keep pointing to, comparing us with other countries with this gun violence. And you'll see this list of like 30 different countries. And there's the United States. And we're the super outlier in terms of our gun violence. But if you look at the y-axis or the x-axis, however they got it set up, it's a very low number, relatively speaking, in terms of deaths per 100,000, homicides per 100,000. Mm-hmm. We're under 10, okay? And that, relative to the rest of the world, is a low number. Places like Colombia have 50. And Ecuador is 35, and these other countries have much higher incidence of gun violence than we do. But we're never compared to them. They compare us to countries like Germany and Sweden and Japan, which has no guns.
Right.
But then
you're talking about a homogeneous society too.
Well, yeah, but that's the other thing is our country is made up of people from all those other violent countries.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So how you're going to have some distortion. Yeah. It's not like just we're all Germans or something.
Yeah.
So, but relative, 10 per 100,000 is not bad, and so proliferation of guns is good. I don't see, like you said, it's not that we can't think of something that would prevent those massacres from happening. The problem is that we're at the point of diminishing returns or reverse returns. We're at the point of where now, if you implement further gun restrictions from here, you're gonna do more harm than good, relatively speaking.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's kind of interesting. I got this later in the show here. Let me just let me go ahead.
Sorry, we're going off on this again.
Yeah, we're
but-
going off on this again.
Yeah.
Let me
That's pretty much all I wanted to say was,
Okay.
you know, the guns in society help out because everybody's like, it's like having more deputies out there. And it prevents, just the knowledge of them prevents crime. So.
Okay, a couple things
Go ahead.
about this. Let's see. They had a deal. USA Today headquarters in Virginia was evacuated following false reports of an armed man in a building. And it didn't take them but about 30 minutes to figure it wasn't, you know. And but the first thing they did, they had the SWAT teams and the cop cars and the first responders. Everybody showed up. And it didn't take them very long, you know, as I say, fewer than 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes to figure out this and said everybody can go back. But there was kind of a mass hysteria as everybody ran out of the building and so forth. And that's all it takes. It's interesting that...
There's a story today about a gun backfire in Times Square.
I was going to do that. I was going to do that too. I mean, that was the thing. It says a bunch of newsrooms across the country have also tightened their security measures because of Trump, who says, you know, you're the enemy. You know, the fake news people, you know, and they're going to blame that on Trump because he's calling out them as the enemy. So why don't you go and shoot up a newsroom? Anyway, they didn't. There was no gun anybody there. And what they did say was that Virginia is an open carry state, except for Fairfax County, where these guys are low. You have to have a permit to carry a big rifle or whatever it is. But the other thing is the panic in Times Square that you just mentioned. People are running for their lives on a motorcycle backfire. I mean, this is what it's come to. Is if this is all it takes to scare the what we're talking about, there were 22 people injured trying to get out of the way of the motorcycle backfire.
Well, but that's Times Square.
I know.
You're talking about the most crowded intersection ever.
And not only that, there's people from everywhere.
Right.
And so, I mean, a lot of these people don't have...
Yeah, they're not Americans probably who got injured or who are running. I'll bet you. Did you notice in the video of the Dayton? Did you see the Dayton video?
I didn't see it, no.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of people running into the bar. And there's like somebody going like this, and they're all running in, and there's one guy just casually walking by, and he just, you know, he looks back over his shoulder at one point, and he just keeps walking. Then the gunman runs up, and that's where they shoot him.
Okay.
So he walked right through the line of fire for a minute, but he wasn't concerned.
Yeah, that's interesting. Idiot.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Okay. And did he have a white cane and a hearing aid?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't know. Well, it's interesting because what's also happened is that Venezuela, Uruguay, and Japan are warning their citizens about traveling to the United States because of gun violence.
Meanwhile, Venezuela, I believe, has the highest incident of gun violence.
Well, of course, the irony of this is you're sitting here and you're saying, wait a minute, you guys are worried about, you know, traveling to, and they've even named some of the cities. They said Venice. I mean, I'm not sure how people get to the United States or Venezuela anyway. But I can understand why you might want to come here if you're starving to death. But at any rate, the cities that the Venezuela said are most prone to violence: Cleveland, Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis, Oakland, Memphis, Birmingham, Atlanta, Stockton, and Buffalo. Now, what's interesting about this is the Uruguayan. Let's see, they said. The hate crime, they said that increasing indiscriminate violence, this is from Uruguay, cost the lives of more than 250 people in the first 7 months of this year. Well, you know, 250 people out of 310 million in the first one, you know, I'm talking, you got to ask yourself, and of course, one of the things that I thought was the people that are not worried about traveling to the United States are Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. They're marching up here as fast as they can get here.
And you can see on this list right here, what I've got pulled up, what people, our viewers can see right now, is a list of a whole bunch of countries and their homicide rate per 100,000. And here's Honduras and El Salvador, these tall blue lines in the middle here. And, you know, other countries, Jamaica, Belize, looks like Chile, like you said, Guatemala, all these, and we are way down here. Now this one has us at about 5 or 4 homicides per 100,000. I mean, I've seen estimates at twice that, but still. I was looking for Venezuela. I thought Venezuela was this one here in the middle, but I don't see it on this list. Just
Well, one of the things that's interesting, when you talk about, one wag said in the comments, said, there are warnings in Chicago about you don't go to the South Side. I mean, that's
right.
that's
Chicago
a no-go.
itself has about, I think, a 50 rating per 100,000.
Something, whatever it is. But the point is,
The capital, where the murder capital of per capita murder capital of the United States is?
No.
Take a guess.
Washington D.C.
That's pretty close.
Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, that might be it. That might not have been counted on the list because they don't consider it they don't really count it as a city or a state or whatever. It's a quasi. It's a district.
Detroit.
No, Detroit was like third.
It's not Miami.
No, Miami was like sixth or something.
Okay, then it would be maybe. It couldn't be out in California. Must be. It's not any place in Texas. I don't think. I don't know. I give up.
New Orleans.
Okay.
Louisiana. Turns out has a very high incidence of gun rate, and Baton Rouge is like third or fourth.
Of course, that's at least an hour and a half north of Louisiana, of New Orleans.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we.
I've got these other great maps, which I should post up here, which are the gun ownership concentration in the United States. Which is and then it here that's this one right here. So this is the concentration. You can see that a lot of people in West Virginia own guns, a lot of people in Michigan, a lot of people in the Midwest. This is per capita.
That's out west, yeah.
And here Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri. So, and Alaska, a lot of people own guns.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, but there's a reason for it in Alaska.
Well, right.
I mean, same in Montana, for God's sakes. You're hunting out there or whatever.
Well, right. But the point is here. My point is then you contrast it with this map, which is the map of gun homicides. Oops, where did it go?
See what I tell you? Yeah.
Okay, here's gun homicides.
Yeah, you're right. You see, you're right.
And you've got Louisiana, the black Louisiana. Well, it's not black over here. Look at West Virginia. All the guns in West Virginia, it's a moderate state in terms of gun homicides. Now, Michigan matches, right? But look at the Midwest. Practically no gun homicides out here.
That's the West, yeah.
Okay, what do you consider Midwest? Like here or something?
Midwest, believe it or not, is like Ohio, and down around Ohio and Illinois and all that, believe it or not, is considered the Midwest.
Okay, all right.
The West is out past on the other side.
All right.
Way on the other side of the Mississippi is West.
To me, West is California, Nevada.
No, it's out.
What's that? What do you consider that? The coast or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
all right. So and then look at the gun violence down here, and then contrast that with gun ownership over here. And you can see in Alaska the same way, lots of guns there, not so much violence. So, and then of course, what we know for sure, what we know is when you go to a gun show, very quickly you realize that if guns cause violence, every gun show would be a Wild West shootout.
Well, not really. Of course, that'd be the last place you want to go. It'd be like going to a gun shop.
Well, I'm just saying,
in there
I'm just saying, if it was irresistible, there would be.
What I like
I think there'd be a bunch of triggered happy people in there. Somebody get an argument over the coffee, and all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam.
They're the nicest people on the planet.
I'm with you.
We've been to them, and I'll tell you right now.
You can't imagine how polite everybody is.
Absolutely. And of course, as somebody said, guns do make people polite. But again,
I think it's
the thing is that all the guns in there are strapped anyway, so you can't really fire them. But be that as it may, what I did like was the cartoon.
2 seconds later. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it ain't gonna happen anyway. That's the nice.
But that's the point.
You want to meet nice, down-home people. Go to a gun show. Seriously.
Right. No, seriously. Yeah.
We've done this. So anyway, but I thought the great cartoon was. It showed this guy with the mask on and had a AR-15 or whatever here. He's loaded down with pistols and everything like that. and there's a guy standing in front of this sign, and the sign says gun-free zone, and the guy says, "Can't you read?"
Right, yeah. Well, and that's what, I had a long discussion with someone the other day about this whole situation, and I came up with a couple of suggestions, and it was basically, from my perspective, get rid of gun-free zones.
Yeah.
Because that way you have at least the potential of having some other good guy there with a gun, and the other random people there with guns are not going to make the situation worse.
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
there, of course, it goes. I know that, for instance, when you go to a stadium, there's 90,000 people in our stadium over here, and they make you, you're not walking in there unless you really know what you're doing. You're not getting in there with a gun.
well, look, if the football league or the school wants to do that, okay, go ahead.
That's true.
And for one event, one stadium, okay, but if you're going to have the entire school be gun free, I think you're disarming people who could potentially help you.
Well, the other thing you have
That's
to
what you
realize is that it actually is not gun free, because there's the cops, all the law enforcement people have guns.
All the law enforcement people have guns, and all the criminals have guns.
Right.
So,
Anyway, but along those same lines, the demand for bulletproof this is what the free market system, capitalism rises to the deal. The demand for bulletproof backpacks surging in the wake of shootings. Bulletproof backpacks are reportedly rising in popularity as shootings increase in massacres that left more than 30 people dead. Okay, so this is 0.01%, and
30,
now
that's the daily rate. Basically, is 30.
It could be, but anyway, these are the two massacres that
Right,
happened.
I know.
30. But the point being that the backpack manufacturers, they're not letting anything. As Rahm Emanuel once said, "You never let a tragedy go to waste." So these guys are ramping up. Our backpacks will
if
stop.
It makes the parents feel better.
Nope. Well, look at this. More companies are offering bulletproof backpacks to students as they gear up to go back to school. And I wonder now, here in Florida, I think it's this week or next week, they have a tax-free holiday for some stuff. Now, I think that there's a cost price limit or something. So maybe the bulletproof backpacks don't count because they run around $200.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, anyways, as they gear up to go as a means of protection if a potential threat were to enter their classroom, the shields, which could cost up to $200, starting to become more in demand after Parkland, and the products that are back in the spotlight, especially as many students are days and weeks away from the new school year. So the point being that you go there and okay, Johnny, we're going to get some crayons, and you need to get some pencils.
And here's your bulletproof shield.
And here's your bulletproof backpack. and they actually have something that you can buy, a shield that you can slip into your backpack.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just I think these people rise to the occasion. Little free enterprise there. Nothing wrong.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's too much to ask to sell them some things. But
backpack.
With the numbers are small.
Yeah, they really are, and that's one of the things that people forget about is something called perspective.
Right.
And it is. We were talking about outliers. We're talking about 2 or 3 standard deviations out, and so forth. Anyway, let me move on.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with. I'm done with all of that stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Medical schools ease admission rules in the name of diversity. I thought this was top universities are dropping some of the hardest A-level entries from their entry requirements to attract more girls and poorer pupils to the courses dominated by male and middle-class students.
Back in the day, we wouldn't have graduated you, but since you're a girl.
That's right. And you can come into medical school, okay? And because you're a poor person,
what are they talking about?
And you get to and you can be a doctor or an electronic engineer.
This is just advertising.
You can say what you want.
Okay.
The move was condemned this weekend as social engineering gone mad by one expert who said it could lead to engineers and building dangerous bridges and doctors missing diagnoses. And so, but the fact is, look, if you get somebody in because of your diversity thing and they don't make it, that means somebody else who might have been qualified didn't get in.
Yeah, if you keep the numbers the same. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Well, there's starting to be suits back the other way.
I know.
I mean, that's the Asians are pushing the Harvard suit. They got a big class action suit against Harvard.
Yeah.
And then there's and people. I think even white people are starting to say, "Hey, look, it's been how many decades of
decades? I mean, since the '60s,
right?" And of course it was us who were excluded. They talk about having to work harder. Yeah. If you're on the margin and you weren't an ethnic person, then obviously our laws don't favor you.
Well, they've had again. I grew up during all of this stuff. I mean, I remember all this stuff, and it's interesting. I was reading a piece on the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which of course it was just a complete expansion of the 13th or 14th Amendment, which said no discrimination because of color or whatever it was. But they've also said now, and they just glommed it on there and said all the other protected areas that really expanded the protection to, as we've seen, all kinds of different classes, age and so forth, and on and on. So it's arbitrarily expanded by the '64 Act, which probably didn't need to be. Next item I've got here: the Pentagon is testing mass surveillance balloons across the United States. The U.S. military is conducting wide area surveillance tests across 6 Midwest states using experimental high altitude balloons. And these are documents that were filed with the FCC. Up to 25 unmanned solar-powered balloons are being launched from rural South Dakota and drifting 250 miles through an area spanning portions of a whole bunch of states. Traveling in the stratosphere at altitudes up to 65,000 feet, the balloons are intended to provide a persistent surveillance, provide a persistent surveillance system to locate and deter narcotic trafficking and homeland security threats. Okay, that's the goal, right? Won't be used for anything else, but that's what we're talking about here, according to a filing. The balloons are carrying high-tech radars designed to simultaneously track many individual vehicles day or night through any kind of weather. The tests, which have not been previously reported, received an FCC license to operate from July through September, following similar flights that were authorized last year.
So what is this, a public safety announcement?
Right, exactly.
Warning.
And, right. This keep you Homeland Security, and we're going to have these up 60,000 feet, wide angle. I don't know if you know this, but from 60,000 feet, because having been up to, I personally have been on a balloon up to about 8,000 feet, you can see both coasts of Florida from Gainesville. So that's 50 miles, and that's the swath, and that's from 8,000 feet. 60,000 feet, I mean, I would imagine you can see like the curve of the earth practically. So they've got all this high-tech stuff on there, and it's solar powered supposedly. I mean, whatever that means. I guess that's for all the equipment that's going to be on there, and but it's going to be good for only bad people. So.
Yeah, no, I think everybody can assume at this point that they can see everything at all times if they look.
You want to see the movie that was so great about that was called Enemy of the State.
Right, yeah.
Oh my gosh, now that was a little bit of fiction. I think they took a little bit of license.
Yeah, but I think by now,
right,
they've got that stuff.
That was Will Smith, I think, was it?
Yeah, it was like in the 80s when we started talking about people being able to read satellites, or being able to read license plates from satellites.
Well, Jack Black.
You've seen the megapixel cameras. Yeah. You've seen the megapixel shots.
Yeah.
You've seen the zoom into the moon, that zoom into the mountaintop. From the little chumpy camera you can buy. Seriously, yeah. And you can zoom it miles and miles away, or incredible detail.
There's that ad from Sony that shows their camera that zooms in. It's like a baseball pitcher from like 4 miles away. And when they zoom out, it's like this dot.
Right.
It's literally a dot.
Right.
And then you zoom in and you see him. My God.
Yeah. No, that's that, and
That's that you can buy that.
that's what I'm saying. That's what they're selling to us, like over the counter.
That's right.
Like, no, you don't need a license or anything.
That's right.
So you got to figure that the cameras they have mounted on these types of things have to be ridiculous.
Well, you look at. Let me tell you what is interesting when you see this. If you see the wildlife photographers, and I mean, now those are $10,000 and $20,000 lenses, and they're this big around, okay? But people go by. They're this long,
Right.
You know, but that's so they can get up close on the lion fight or whatever in Africa. But you can imagine if the military wants one that's 10 times better than that, easy. You know, they have no problem putting a lens out there that's that big, and well, Hubble or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, and then of course you can do all these cool things we've heard about where they take, you know, now with audio, they can, if they can listen in from their Alexa device or whatever, as you walk around the room, they can tell your distance
Well,
from...
they've now said you can turn it off.
Yeah.
Amazon said you can tell Alexa to shut up or no, don't listen or something.
Yeah.
And but they said they were using it. The only reason they use it is because, in fact, they sent me a thing. They said you can train your Alexa, which I've got in the other house here, to recognize your voice. And that way nobody else can fire it up, which actually would help because sometimes I'll be watching television and somebody will say the magic word and suddenly the damn thing will fire up. God, shut up. So anyway, I always worry about that. Okay, let me just do, this is another thing that is a big deal on the campaign trail and has to do with the climate change. Now this at first this may not appear to be climate change, but it's kind of cute, I thought. Katy Perry, and fiance Orlando Bloom, Don, I saw this, reading this in one of the gossip magazines. They had 50 pictures of them over in Sardinia or Italy or someplace.
What were you doing thumbing through the gossip magazine?
Well, when you go to the London
like the
paper
Men in
called,
Black, you're picking up the
right.
the real news.
The real news. That's right. No, it's the Mail. It's the Daily Mail or whatever, and this is like a picture thing, and they have every piece of gossip you can imagine. Why am I doing on this? I have no idea.
Okay.
Anyway, they after zipping across the water to their destination, the pair were joined by a large entourage as they unloaded their bag. Now you saw them, and they literally had bags and bags of stuff. This is wait a minute, it gets there. The reason they had been there, they took up residence on EOS, whatever it is, alongside Oprah, Gayle King, Cooper, Meghan Markle's new best friend, Edward Enninful, whatever it is. Okay, Diane von Furstenberg, blah, blah, blah. Google Camp, now what they'd all been to in Italy was the annual climate change discussion at Google Camp. Now Google Camp it gathers the world's most influential people in Sicily for an annual 3-day event where they debate very important global issues. This year's focus was on climate change. However, the stars have faced a little backlash. Celebrities, including the likes of, and they name them all, people that you all know, Naomi Campbell, so have faced ridicule and accusations of hypocrisy for meeting in Italy to save the planet while leaving a huge carbon footprint of their own. The tech giants
flew there in private jets or whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh, the tech giants spent an estimated $20 million on extravagant climate change bash for a host of A-list celebrities this week, flying hundreds of guests across the world and treating them to 3 days of luxury at a Sicilian seaside resort. So
what's a crisis for?
Wait
You can't
a
go to a
minute,
seaside resort in Italy to talk about it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. And these people who, and it gets even better because
How good of a crisis is this anyway?
Well,
is this Ritz?
Actually, it's going to come as you think for 2 seconds that it's going to affect them at all. But I mean, this is the classic case of the.
Well, look, hey, go ahead. So they're going to save us. So how are they going to save us?
Well, here's how they're going to do it.
Okay.
Katy Perry,
right,
who was featured in this thing.
Yeah.
It says here, exclusive. The singer goes off the grid.
This is the second week in a row you've mentioned her. You know that.
Could be.
Okay, keep
She's
going.
in the news.
Okay.
Singer goes off the grid as she installs solar panels on top of her $19 million home and cycles to gigs in a bid to help the environment.
Cycles.
She literally will get down and A bicycle.
Bullshit.
Well,
Bullshit.
they said they see her all over the place doing stuff like this, and as well as
Come on,
working on her
man.
home, the songstress has also made her vehicles.
And then they drive her to like 1 block away, and then she gets out of the van.
Well, it gets even better. Because as well as working on her home, they made her vehicles environmentally friendly by installing solar panels on top of her trailer, her big trailer, her travel trailer. She's put some solar panels on that. Her fleet of luxury cars have also been kited out with slick silver covers, which protects them from UV rays. I hope that, and of course, as somebody said, well, you know, she travels around the world, and they were betting that she didn't cycle over to Australia
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Sicily.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like I saw the little Swedish girl.
Yeah, the 16-year-old.
Yeah. Did you see? She sailed to America in order to protest.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
The travel situation.
Was she on the QE2 or something?
No, like it was like a small little sailboat.
No.
60-footer or some kind of a yacht, basically.
Really?
Yeah, but you could tell it was a high-tech plastic, petroleum-based yacht, basically. The entire thing was high-tech, and it's like she doesn't even realize.
No.
Of course.
She's only 16.
Right. Well, not only that, but see, here's the sad thing about that whole story is that particular girl is autistic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and that's why she always looks so serious and intent and everything, is because she's a little off.
Really?
Yeah.
But I mean, is she like Rain Man autistic? Or?
I don't. No. She's not that bad. She's just, in the spectrum. Yeah, or something. So I don't know what, but that's what I've read, and it all makes perfect sense. When she scolds everybody, she means it. She's been told that we're destroying the earth on purpose because I guess some people don't care about anybody.
Right. And she does.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. It's like caring counts.
There you go. She's going to skip school to prove it.
There you go. The other thing is McDonald's new paper straws can't be recycled.
No.
The old plastic ones could. That's what it says here. A leaked memo admitted the new version would be thrown away and burned, even though the plastic straws were recyclable. The memo said paper straws are not yet recyclable and should be disposed of in general waste until further notice. One foodie was so outraged they started a petition to bring back the plastic ones. In the month since its creation, more than 50,000 people have added their signature.
God, please bring them back. Please bring them back.
Their thickness makes it. So they said on
this is one thing that actually has affected my life.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, then you think about it. I mean, when we talked about earlier, like, of all the policies you hear about, these people yelling about this policy and that policy, none of them really affect us in any way. Except this one. This one is actually real. This one actually, I've been served paper straws now.
Oh, I was, last night I was over here, or the night before I guess it was, I was over here at a dinner and everything, and sure enough, the straws for the water were paper, but if you ordered a
mixed drink,
plastic.
Yes.
Plastic straw. Absolutely.
Yes.
And and they didn't even come, they put them in there already for you. They didn't come in the little paper wrapper.
Right.
And of course that's the same way it was with now they've got now, if you've noticed on the paper straws, they're made in 2 layers. What's it? The black outer layer.
They still suck.
Yeah, I know they still
suck. Yeah,
the straws suck.
Yeah, or they don't suck. They still are so bad. They're like still 1970s quality, if you ask me. And I mean, they hold up for half of the drink, and then they deteriorate.
Well, well, of course, what I've done in this to make sure is I take them out.
Mm-hmm.
Of the drink.
Right.
And then
you got to do something extra. You got to lay it on the table. I'm telling you, I know what's going to happen. This is what I would do if I was still waiting tables. Is I'd carry my own plastic, specially individually wrapped straws.
Yeah, right here. You got one.
That's exactly what you would do. That's exactly the kind of thing that a good waiter will do for their customers.
You're going to get that tip, by God.
That's it.
So that's right. Yeah. Okay. I think. Let me just see here if I've got. I think I'm just about finished off.
Okay.
Impeachment. Oh, I do have one more thing. Monica Lewinsky. Do you remember her?
Of course.
Of course. Well, you do, but I mean, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a big deal in '96, or there it was, 95, 96. now the impeachment, the American Crime Story about Clinton's scandal is all go with at FX, which is one of our channels.
Oh yeah, she's doing a tell-all movie.
Well, yeah, she's actually a producer.
Okay.
But they got famous people to play her and Linda Tripp or whatever it is.
Good. Thank God she's getting something.
No,
out of this
exactly.
after all this
She
time.
finally is absolutely
Gonna own the narrative.
Absolutely. Well, of course, some of this started was what got all this started was kind of funny because I forget, it was either it might have been Mitch McConnell or somebody that was saying
Pence.
Was it Pence that said something about getting on your knees to pray?
Mm-hmm.
And she comes right back and says, "Yeah, well, I know what that." Whatever she says, she said.
I wanted to see the quote.
I saw the quote, but anyway, it was a slam on getting on your. I mean, it was a real, getting on your knees gets you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, needless to say, it made the rounds. It went viral. But the point is that the crime story will enter the sex scandal that rocked the Bill Clinton presidency. Sarah Paulson, after winning an Emmy as Marcia Clark on the O.J. Simpson story, will return the anthology as Linda Tripp, and there's a Beanie Feildstein, whatever, will play Monica Lewinsky, and another actress will play Paula Jones. Lewinsky will also be a producer of the limited series titled Impeachment, the American Crime Story. So I thought it was interesting that she finally is going to actually make some money out of this.
Yeah.
Well,
I think she's got a speaking tour that she.
Yeah, I guess she does. I mean, you think about it. It's been 23 years, so she must be about 46 or 7 now, 48.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, she was like 22 then,
Yeah.
something. So do the math. So she's still young.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I have.
That's what you got, eh?
Yep.
That is what you got. Let's see. Oh, there's a new Twitter layout. Have you noticed that?
Yes. What was that all about?
I don't know. It sucks, though. Man.
Yeah. No, I mean, I went in there. Can you get back to the old one?
You could for a while.
Okay.
I don't know if you can anymore. I think they've gone full new.
So now what? I don't do that much tweeting. So.
I don't either, but it seems to me like we're less connected than we were with the old way for some reason. Every time it seems like they've hidden or removed the likes and the retweets and that kind of stuff in a way that they are hoping makes the community more polite or something. But
because interesting, because I think yesterday I did a bunch of retweets.
Yeah, no, you can do it still. What I'm saying is that when you the way it's displayed is different.
Okay.
So it just they've taken, it looks like, some effort to hide who is doing what kind of retweeting or responsing. They've got some extra layers in there that they didn't have. Some sort of dead ends, it seems like, is all I'm saying. It just looks like that. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. But we'll see. It seems as though, and I heard a couple of quips about how they apparently were changing in order to try to make their community more friendly. But
banned.
Well, that's the when you say that, when you say you're going to try to make the community more friendly, you run the risk of overparenting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Boy,
these are adults. If you want to have it.
Well, when you realize that you say that, what's interesting is the censors, if you want to call that, are probably kids, 22, 23 years old, the ones that are sitting over there at the Twitter. I mean, those are the guys they hire.
Oh, by the way, I'm still banned from ABC.
Is that right?
I'm still banned from ABC for one comment that had no profanity or virtually nothing.
Did you ask them?
No, I didn't do the appeal or anything.
Okay.
But it's just interesting.
Well, I'm off of Reddit on one thing. That doesn't mean, it just means that I can't. I forget exactly what it was. They said we've temporarily suspended you, and I forget what it was. But I haven't bothered to.
Yeah, I haven't either. They can ban me if they want. But I did notice that. All right. I saw another story that was interesting. There was an apartment complex that was purchased, or maybe there was townhomes. It was rentable property, basically, rental property. And the new owners raised the rents by 50%. So the the former tenants, and now former tenants, a lot of people, or several people at least, have declared that they're going to have to move out because the rents have been raised.
Right.
And there was a big story about this.
Okay.
And of course, they interviewed the renter, and the renter said the new owners just don't care. They just don't care about the people who are living there, and they just want their money.
Yeah. Okay. And your point is?
My point is that this was a story to somebody. And they were interviewing it, and it was entirely set up as though this evil corporation had come in and purchased the apartments from what used to be a mom and pop organization.
Okay, gotcha.
So they used to be able to go, they would say, we used to be able to go to the owner and say, hey, we can't pay you for a few days, and they would let us slide. But these new owners want to hold us strictly accountable, kind of thing. So I thought it was interesting that the way that it was pitched was, it was so anti-business.
Yeah.
They literally made it out as though it was evil to ask for their money. They want their rent. But no, it was too much as far as the reporter was concerned. And of course, and then they reported a couple people had moved, they'd found other places to live and that kind of thing, of course. But it's just interesting that it was portrayed so negatively, and is such an evil act to raise the rent and to require people to pay more money. And I think we'll see more of stories like that in the future, and it's
Well,
just
it's
too
interesting
bad.
you should mention that, because at one of the California universities, there's a new course, a new major. It has to do with social justice. You can get, it's a social justice major.
Well, when we see a major that's like business justice or social, yeah,
Well, the
social
thing about it
business
is,
or something.
what are you going to get a job doing once if that's your major? I mean, where do you go to make money?
You work at a municipality and you order people to.
Oh, right, because we have it here. Actually, that's right. We have a couple of people down here that are that.
There you go.
That's
You
right,
get
and they
paid
make
6
pretty good
figures.
dough.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
to
right.
tell
You're
other
right.
people
You're right. I
how to
forgot
be
about that.
just
Yeah.
with their businesses,
Yeah.
and they would probably tell these people, "Hey, man, you guys can't have that much money. We'll give you some reasonable amount."
Well, it is interesting because we personally, when I say personally, very close to home, Mrs. Jimmy owns some apartments. And there's a bunch of those tenants that are perennially late. And by any other, if it was corporate owned, they'd be out of there. I mean, they would have their stuff on the lawn.
My point is, I had 2 points about the story, and that was that enforcing your own property rights is just fine. That's normal. That's what we do. You have to do
private property.
Exactly. And if you don't adhere to that, the entire thing crumbles.
Right.
And then the second point that I wanted to just touch on was, here comes the inflation. 50%.
Right. Yes.
50%.
Right.
Not like any chumpy 10%.
No.
They went 50%.
Right.
So, and I've heard that rents are going to be one of the things that get hit the hardest.
I don't doubt it. I mean, well, I can tell you this much, that here locally, they are the city is raising the rates on electricity, sewer, and some other fees that you have to pay. We have a landlord fee, for instance, that has gone up. And so, you can't just, in fact, we have a private company that collects the garbage, one of those big garbagey things, but that's like double. And you have to pass that on.
Yeah.
You've got no choice.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
Another thing, did you did see Bernie on Joe Rogan? Did you see it?
I didn't see him. I heard. I read the comments. Okay.
Okay.
Apparently, he was only on for about an hour. But Hayes is a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
And almost every day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes 2 or 3 a day.
Okay. Anyway, and he's got his studio. It's all set up, and so he had Bernie in there for about an hour.
Yeah.
But the comments that I read, all I did on a lot of this stuff, before I go in to read it, I read the comments first, because that gives you practically all you'll need to know. And the comments were they said, this is such a bogus interview. You got nothing.
It was a little light. Unfortunately, like you said, he usually does 3 hours. This time he did 1, so you get much less detail. And with 1 hour, really, to touch on the main issues, they only touched on like 6 different issues and talked about each one for 10 minutes.
Well, and when you think about it, and this is, and you know that Bernie, who has been talking about this stuff for years, has it memorized down. I mean, he's not going to. He's got a script for every one of them.
Well, but that's what you hope will be overridden in the 3-hour format. You hope he'll be pulled off script.
Right.
At some point,
That's
he'll
right.
run out of things to say on the script. And he was close. It was really close. You could tell because a couple of times he would just run out, and then they would switch subjects.
Yeah.
And it was right when his concepts were starting to break down. But the big takeaway from the whole thing was Bernie really is a socialist.
Right.
He really thinks that he really believes that in Bernie's mind, if he could snap his fingers, what he thinks is going to happen or could happen is he's going to get elected. And then he's going to go around to all of the big industries that he doesn't agree with, like fossil fuels and these other big corporations that he thinks aren't giving people a fair shake. And he believes he's going to put pressure on them by threatening them with public response. This is what he thinks he does. Like I said, he doesn't understand how things get done in the real political universe. So when Joe pressed him on how he's going to get it done, he said, well, we need the people behind us. And so what he is ostensibly going to do is something different from what has ever been done before.
What, like a boycott?
Well, no. Something like...
You get the people behind you.
Yeah.
But the fact is, of course, Bernie is in control of the military. That is to say, the organization that he would be head of has a whole lot of guns.
Yeah.
And of course, if you don't voluntarily do something, then now we have to really take a closer look.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is that he didn't seem to understand what his threats would entail if he had to follow them through.
Right, okay.
What he's going to do exactly to pressure these companies.
And so Joe didn't say, and then what?
Yeah, no, not exactly.
That's the first thing I would say. Okay, and what if that doesn't work?
Right. Yeah. Now, Bernie did back off of 1 or 2 things, says he doesn't have solutions, a magic solution for like the gun control thing, things like that. So he does recognize some of his limitations, but otherwise, he is really aiming for a fundamental change in this country. I mean, I'm talking about stuff like bills of attainder. I'm talking about like, we're going to go ahead and appropriate Amazon or split it up or do major structural changes with the people's support,
right? Kind
of a thing. So he's very Frederick Engels sort of.
It is interesting because we see that here locally, where there is almost no support for the city commission, but they get to do it anyway. I mean, I only put it this way: there's enough support because they keep getting reelected. But when you read the comments from people that are saying, "What are these guys doing?" They're acting like they own the place. Well, of course, they have guns and everything, and they can pretty much get away with it.
Well, that's
for a while until the next election.
My guess is that if Bernie got elected and he tried to do some things, and somebody challenged him on it, his first response would be, "Well, the people support it." And then if they said, "Well, not enough," then other supporters would probably tell Bernie, "Well, you really don't have to do anything that anybody wants."
I don't. One of the things I talk to people here now. And this also is something to do in the national elections as well. When you have a 60% turnout, for instance, and so you only need half of that, or about 31 or 32%. They're very close elections. When they're 49, 51% of 60%, you're talking about 31 or 32% of the electorate. Well, which means that 70% of the electorate did not vote for you.
Right.
And you decide you got a mandate?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is I believe Bernie would absolutely feel like he had a mandate.
Okay.
He would. This would be destiny.
He's got a phone and a pen?
That's what would happen. So, all right. And right on time.
Right on time.
Oh, one other thing I want to say. I can do this while we do the outro here. I just want to tell everybody about the stand your ground law real quick. I had a debate about this with somebody, and they misunderstood the whole thing. And here's what it comes down to, in Florida anyway. It's very, very simple. For as long as anybody needs to remember, we've had self-defense in this state. And basically the way that the self-defense works is you can defend yourself with the same amount of force that you reasonably believe is being used against you.
Okay.
So if you come at me with your fists, I'm allowed to punch you back, you know.
Okay.
If you pick up a stick, I can pick up a stick back, that kind of a thing. If you pick up a gun, I can shoot you, that kind of a thing. So that's always been the case.
Okay.
But in Florida, you have a duty to retreat if you can. If I can get away, I have to run. If there's a place where I can go to, I have to try to leave. Now, the only exception to that is if I reasonably believe I'm going to get shot in the back or something. If I think I'm going to get shot in the back, then running's not going to do me any good. And so I can turn around and confront you, basically. So that's how self-defense has always been. The stand your ground law basically just puts that in law. It codifies that. Instead of it being an affirmative defense where you have to wait and get charged, the law actually now says you can do those things.
Okay.
And that's really the only change. There's one other very small change, and that is if you're in your home, you don't have to retreat.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's your home is your castle. Give me a break.
Well, but in Florida, you still had to retreat until the stand your ground law. If you could retreat to another place in your house that was safe still, then you had to. But now, because of stand your ground, you don't have to.
Okay.
So it doesn't cause people to go out and commit murder and then claim stand your ground.
Right.
You know,
No, yeah, I know that.
It's very rare. Also, it's very seldomly applied. So anyway, all right. So I blew our perfect timing.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, we started a minute late, so.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. So, hey, these tracks brought to you by Kevin McLeod. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hope you guys had a little fun. Got something out of it. We always have fun. So, come back and join us next time. We'll be here on Sunday and at 4 o'clock.